Hi students. Yesterday we took our reading part. The reading was about some interesting information that we have about advertisers and what they do in order to reach to people around them. Now we have our homework, which is your assignment. We have in the book the 4 questions, and we are going to see quickly what are the answers that we have, because the answers are short and some of them we can just answer immediately without even going back to the reading part. Now we have the first one. How many advertisements is the average person exposed to in the day? Do you remember when we talked about the number of advertisements that we pass by every day, and when you reach a certain age, how many advertisements may you possibly have seen or passed by? So in general, we have the answer is the average person is exposed to between 400 to 600 advertisements each day. Now note here that we said exposed to. It's not something that, it doesn't mean that you really have passed by these 400 or 600, but you are exposed to them. The second question, what are traditional advertising approaches? So what are the old methods or the old ways to just send out advertisements? Now we can see that we have here TV commercials. We have also newspaper ads. The magazine ads are traditional advertising approaches. Also after that we have, what does the author of the article consider to be one of the strangest developments in advertising? So one of the strangest things that we read about yesterday, that people, they advertise using their own bodies or themselves. So we have here the answer is selling advertising space on one's body is a strange development in advertising. And we reach our last question, which is what does the author consider to be the sneakiest form of advertising? And here we have a phrase. We have some kind of phrase that we use for advertising. And this is, yes, buzz marketing, which is considered the sneakiest form of advertising. So these are the questions that we have in the reading part. Now we can move on. And actually I have here, I just wrote a script. It is about advertisement, but mainly I joined between the topics that we took in our book. Now you know in Unit 1 we took about teamwork. In Unit 2 we talked about famous figures. In number 3 we talked about the future and what will they think of next. In Unit 4 we had something about the world of TV, and of course number 5 we have our advertisement topic. So here I wrote, advertising is a type of communication that succeeds through teamwork and creativity. A lot of famous figures have made great accomplishments through advertising. The world of TV is full of advertisements we see every day. Now you can see that mainly I joined between the topics in a very short matter. And here, if you can notice that I did not just type it. You cannot just see the regular computer fonts that we have. This time I wrote it. So some people may notice quickly that this is handwritten, and handwriting actually in public or generally is not used all the time. But you remember when one of the units, when we took one of the lessons, I gave you a kind of comparing between the 2 messages. And I told you if you got a message from your teacher, a thank you note, or if you got a letter from your friend, which one would you prefer? Would you like it to be, you received the letter, is it something written? Or would you prefer it to be typed and printed and so on? And we discussed the difference between the handwriting method and the typing method, which we actually have now in our book. So we are going to move on to our new topic. We have the question, do you enjoy writing by hand? Why or why not? So some people, they have it as a hobby. They really enjoy writing. Some other people, they do not have the time, or maybe they do not have the desire to write all the time. So it's a personal point of view. You can answer here using why or why not. either yes or no your answer. You have to just give your reason. And also we have the second question. Do you think handwriting is a useful skill? Why or why not? Is it a useful skill? Do you think it is better to handwrite from one time to another? Or do you think it's enough that we just now depend on our computers and our printers and we use typing to just send out whatever we want? So we have here the learning objectives of our lesson, which is the writing lesson. Compare between handwriting and printing or typing. State the characteristics of each type. Scan for information and topic sentences. Give a personal point of view about advertising at school. Differentiate between types of essays and organize ideas to write a new essay. So we are going to move on. We have our questions here. Now, if you just pass by these questions, these are the same questions that you have in your book in the writing lesson. So we have, what does handwriting involve? This is the first question. The second one, why are some people not keen on writing by hand? What can specialists find out about someone through his or her handwriting? Why is word processing popular? Which types of tests are mentioned and what is the difference between them? What is the writer's viewpoint on the issue? Do you agree or disagree, and why? So in the writing lesson, at the beginning, we have this topic, which is about handwriting in general, and in comparison with the word processing part. We are going to see each part or each paragraph, and we're going to answer. Now, after we have the text in the book, there is another part which is asking you to go back and read, and then you have to just underline what is the topic sentence in each paragraph. Now, do you remember yesterday when we did the reading, we underlined in each paragraph the main theme or the main topic, the main sentence, which is the topic sentence. Here, they ask you the same thing, and also they asked you of something else we have here, yes, which is the supporting statements. And actually here we know that the beginning or the part, the first two lines are usually the topic sentence. And after that, the rest of the sentences, they just support and give more meaning in the paragraph. So they are going to be the supporting ideas. When you are done, number 5, what are some of the differences between this text and an expository essay? I'm going to explain for you. The expository essay, if you remember, it is like the part that we did in Unit 4 when we talked about the movie genres. You were exposing information. You were just telling and giving information. You researched, and after that we had our writing part. So the expository is actual information that you just expose and you give to the reader. Here you are going to sense a personal point of view. So instead of just reading and then going back and reading, I am going to ask you now to look for the answer of the questions that we have. And then at the same time, you are going to underline the topic sentence in each part. So we are going to do a 2-in-1 task. Our title here is handwriting, can you read this word? It's not absolute. We have here, is handwriting obsolete? So you can just compare it or remember the word delete, because delete is a word that we are very aware of and we use all the time. So you can see that the last part of the word is the same as the word delete. So you can just remember and you can just recall the word. We have here the word obsolete, which means that something is very old, and it may be old, too old that it is not even used anymore. So do you think this is true? Is handwriting obsolete? Is handwriting old that we do not use it anymore or not? So we're going to see. As I said, I have here the paragraph. We are going to pass by each paragraph. You have the questions that we have before we start, or the ones above the text. And now you are going to answer, and at the same time, you are going to underline the topic sentence. So I'm going to read for you the whole paragraph, and while I'm reading, just try to look for the answer and underline the part. Let's start. Handwriting involves forming letters with a writing implement. Proper handwriting, meaning cursive writing, normally requires formal training that is still in place in some schools. Naturally, at initial literacy levels, young learners are trained to manipulate a writing implement and develop their eye-hand coordination so they can form letters. So we have the first question, what does handwriting involve? You can find from the very start the answer here. Now we can say that handwriting involves forming letters with a writing implement, meaning, for example, we have here cursive writing normally requires formal training. Nobody knows immediately how to write cursive. You have to train. That is still in place in some schools, and naturally at initial literacy levels, young learners are trained to manipulate a writing implement and develop their eye-hand coordination. So they teach at schools how to write cursive writing, and in general, writing needs training. So they start at a very young age. Now you can see that we covered up mainly the whole paragraph. We have a short paragraph. And the topic, the main sentence or the topic sentence here is going to be at the beginning. We have here handwriting involves forming letters with a writing implement. This is it. Yes, now we are going to move to the second one, the second paragraph. You are going to do the same. So let's read the question first. We have, why are some people not keen on writing by hand? So I just removed the first question, or we're done with it. Your question is, why are some people not keen on writing by hand? Now we have here, as learners get older, however, they are more reluctant to write. One of the reasons mentioned is the fact that most people word process, making handwriting unnecessary. Even older adults that used to have a distinct handwriting style often claim to have lost the ability to write smoothly and evenly. So is handwriting obsolete? Should we forget about it? Yes. Now go back and just look for the answer. The question is, why are people not keen on handwriting? It's not because they have bad handwriting. They are not keen. The answer is very clear here. You can see that one of the reasons mentioned is the fact that most people word process, making handwriting unnecessary. We do not need it. How about the topic sentence? What do you think about the topic? We have here the topic sentence is, as learners get older, however, they are more reluctant to write. So the more we are now getting modernized and using technology, the need to use handwriting is getting less and less. Yes. Now we have here a longer paragraph. Our question is, what can specialists find out about someone through his or her handwriting? This is an interesting question. So not anyone, specialists, they can find about a person's personality, he or she, female or male, by just looking at their handwriting. We're going to see what can they find. Also, do not forget the topic. Handwriting has been a very distinct identifying feature. It represents the writer in more ways than one. Graphologists analyze handwriting to determine character traits, gender, personality, and emotional state, or to authenticate documents. Allowing it to truly become obsolete would remove an identity marker that has been regarded quite highly in historical and personal terms. Handwritten notes of prominent authors are coveted by collectors who will often pay exorbitant amounts to possess them. Okay, now here we have very clear points. How do we, or what do we know about people's personalities? You can see from here. Now the question said, what can specialists find out? It's the same thing here. We have here from the word graph, we have here graphologists, okay? So what do they analyze? They analyze handwriting to determine character traits, gender, personality, and emotional state, or authenticate other documents. So all of these things, they can be just taken from a person's handwriting. Going back to the beginning to know our topic or the main idea, the topic sentence is going to be, handwriting has been a very distinct identifying feature. So we identify, what do we identify? These things that we just mentioned here. Moving on. The question after that, why is word processing popular? So also this is a very easy and clear question to find. Why is word processing popular? Yes. Okay, let's start. On the other hand, most of us will invariably use a computer when we write. It is fast and efficient, and it makes editing so much easier. You can delete, copy, paste, store versions of your work throughout stages of editing for later reference. You can spell check and search for words or alternative expressions. Compared to all these advantages, handwriting seems so restricting and restricted that most computer literate people limit it to scribbling notes for someone or filling in forms that are not available in electronic form. So this is a sad part that a lot of people, yes, it's true, that they depend on handwriting just to give small notes, just to write something very quick. So it's not formal as it used to be. Now going back to our question, we have here, why is word processing popular? You can find the answer. We have a lot of things that we can do through word processing. We can do what? It is fast and efficient. It makes editing so much easier. How? You can delete, copy, paste, store versions of your work throughout stages of editing for later reference. Also, you can spell check. You can search for words or alternative expressions. All of these things you can do throughout typing or word processing, which you cannot do usually with handwriting. Going back to the start for our topic sentence, we have at the beginning, most of us will invariably use a computer when we write. So the basic idea is using the computer. Okay, we have here two more questions. Which types of tests are mentioned and what is the difference between them? So we have here a short paragraph. There are two tests mentioned. We have the first one. Tests, you might argue, require handwriting. Some do and some are computer-based. It is true, however, that a substantial number of pen and paper tests require writing by hand within a set time limit. Rusty handwriting is likely to affect the final score. So the two types of tests that we have are, of course, handwriting and computer-based. And we have here, to complete, the topic is going to be that you might argue that tests require handwriting, some do, and some are computer-based. That's it. Leading us to the last question that we have here. Now, what is the writer's viewpoint on the issue? Do you agree or disagree? So after the writer gave us all these points and this kind of information, now things that are true, like the word processing things that we can do, or the kinds of tests. He, after that, gives his point of view, personally. So before we reach it, just to note that we have 2 paragraphs left, which all talk about his point of view. We have here the main idea. Overall, there seems to be some resistance to the total and unbroken hegemony of the computer, indicating that people do not want to become total reliant on it. So some people, they refuse. They do not want to rely on computers. And in the second part we have here, in view of the above, we would have to consider a more exclusive or inclusive standpoint. Sorry, let's go back. Standpoint about the idea. Now, just to outline here the part that we have about the writer's point of view. The writer is in favor of the technological advances that allow us to do things efficiently, but he is also keen to preserve the skill of writing by hand without the help of a device, as a means of self-sufficiency and independence which is not reliant on machines. So you can see that here, yes, he agrees with using computers, but at the same time, he wants to keep and protect the handwriting method from just disappearing. Now, this is the whole part about handwriting and typing, or in general, they said word process. After that, we have here, we did, of course, the 2 tasks that we have in the book. And then we have here the comparison. Now, what are some of the differences between this text and an expository essay? As I told you before, the expository is something that is information general and you just expose it. But the kind of essay that we have here is a kind that we call a persuasive essay. The writer is trying to convince the reader of what he has in mind. So we can just summarize all this and we say that getting your reader to agree with you. I am persuading the reader to agree with my point of view. Now here, this is actually the first paragraph that we had, the first one in the text. There is something mentioned about schools. Now they said here that normally requires formal training that is still in place in some schools. They mentioned schools, and in the last lesson, which is the reading, also we mentioned schools in one of the paragraphs. Do you remember? What did we talk about in the reading part? We mentioned in the reading part that advertising is done also, or advertisers have reached inside schools to advertise. And in return, the schools, they get free products, they get free technology machines, and so on. So we're going to choose this topic for you, and in the book they have it. They are asking you in the book to write the same kind, which is a persuasive essay about using advertisements inside schools. So we're going to leave the handwriting part, and we are going to link between the idea of persuasive essays with the idea of advertisements, because it is our basic topic, and schools in general. Now we have, it's your turn, page number 77. We are going to turn to it. In part B, we have here decide whether or not you support advertising in schools. So this is the first part. Are you with or not, or are you against using advertisements at schools? This is the first one. Then after that, think about reasons, just thinking about reasons why advertising in schools is a good or bad idea. Use an organizer to write down your ideas. So whether you agree or disagree, you have to have your organizer to just write notes about what you think about the topic. Are you with or against? And after that, you are going to write a letter to your local newspaper about this topic, trying to convince the reader that your view is correct. So whether you agree or disagree, you are going to write a persuasive essay, trying to convince the reader that you have a point of view which is which you are trying to convince him or her, in general them, with it. You are going to do this. So the first part was choosing the topic, agree or disagree, reasons and notes why, starting to write your essay, which is a persuasive essay, and this is just an imagination part, which is to write to a local newspaper. And then after that, you have here, advertising at schools is or is not a good idea. You are going to also use the same method that we talked about before, dividing your ideas and putting them into 4 parts, which are going to be your paragraphs. You are going to write a letter. So we have here, this is a sample in your book of a letter, just to see how the letter is started. So we're going to move on to the writing corner, starting with, in your book, when you write a letter to communicate your opinion and feelings to a controversial topic, start with an appropriate greeting. For example, dear editor, dear sir, dear man, or dear Mr. Jones, for example, whatever. You have to state clearly from the very start the reason why you are writing and give your general opinion on the topic. Why are you writing? There has to be a reason why you started writing from the start. After that, state your reasons for your opinion by giving reasons and or examples. So you gave the reason, and then you have to cover up using your examples. Organize your reasons in clear paragraphs. So you're not just going to list the reasons. Each reason is going to be in a separate paragraph. And when you order them or organize them, each paragraph should start with a sentence which gives the main reason or the topic sentence. And you have had now enough practice just underlining and understanding what is the aim of a topic sentence in the paragraph. Why do we have it? And of course, it is a presentation for your general paragraph. The paragraph should then be developed in such a way that you support the topic sentence with more details and examples. So it is just like writing a paragraph at the start and then just going in details about the same idea and even giving examples. Use connectors to list your main reason, like moreover, in addition, additionally, what's more, last but not least, and so on. To express your opinion, use phrases such as, in my opinion, because this is something personally, your point of view. You can also use, from my point of view, as far as I'm concerned, I strongly believe, and so on. There are other phrases you can use. Ask yourself what objections your readers might have to your ideas. So you should be ready to answer. Or if there is kind of objection that you are ready to, just go in details as a discussion for what you have in mind. Use phrases to express a general opinion such as, most people think that, everyone knows that, most people support or oppose the idea. Always use most people, but not all people. You cannot make something in general. Select features and benefits that you can present to overcome these objections. Do not forget to write a conclusion. So at the end, we have our introduction. You're going to write the conclusion, carefully going back to your initial thesis statement and summarizing your facts or arguments. Use phrases such as to sum up, in conclusion, to conclude, and so on. And at the end, we have here our outline. We have here discussing writing in general. We read and searched, enumerated types, highlighted characteristics, and we have here the organizing parts of the writing steps. So all of these, we passed by them, we discussed them. You have now a complete idea of what you're going to do. You're going to write about advertisements at school, depending on your personal point of view. Now you're going to write a letter. You have many paragraphs, and each paragraph should have a topic sentence to start with. This is your homework. Actually, it's our homework because I'm going to write with you, and we're going to see our results tomorrow, inshallah.